Can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic. We can. Yes, thank goodness.
Well, I'll start whenever you tell me to.
Yes, we're just going to wait for the provost in just a moment.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon. Hello, Ambassador Rice. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Sorry about our technical difficulties. I'm glad that we prevailed. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready whenever you say.
We are ready for you. Okay. Well, it looks like the house is filling up. So thank you for managing all of that, Wes. And we will go ahead and start. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's distinguished presidential lecture. It is my great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to this lecture. I'm Terrell Strayhorn, Provost, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, also the Director of the Center for the Study of HBCUs. We're delighted to partner with VUU Global, our global initiative here at Virginia Union University, to bring you this presidential distinguished lecture with the one and the only Ambassador Elizabeth Johnson Rice. Elizabeth Johnson Rice has been a civil rights activist for decades, starting when she was arrested in 1960 during the sit-ins with the Richmond 34 from Virginia Union University, an organization which has persisted and has had Miss Rice as coordinator since 2004. Today, she achieves social change as founder of the nonprofit organization Be Part of the Solution Foundation, founded in 2012. Through her work with the foundation, Ambassador Rice, as we know her affectionately, educates through the principles of empowerment and education to teach on the need to embrace freedom and justice and liberty through the lens of the civil rights movement of both the past and the present. Her speaking and teaching has a family-based approach. Parents as well as students from all levels of education gain exposure to these positive principles to help enact social change through her public speaking. From 1965 till 2010, Ms. Rice served in various roles in Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia schools on the secondary level, including roles as an administrator and in teaching science with focus on certain topics like government and education. She has also worked in the realm of marketing and consulting through her previous roles with other organizations, and she served as the director of marketing. She's written proposals for private organizations for the federal government. Listen, she is well equipped and experienced to talk with us today about her subject matter. She has shared her experiences as part of the civil rights movement in documentaries such as Civil Rights Heroes of Virginia, Trailblazers of Virginia, and most recently, Trail of Hope by David McNamara. If you have not seen these documentaries, make sure that you write them down. We'll put them in the chat. They are in her bio on our VUU Global website, but you want to watch these. You can find them online and on YouTube. Believe it or not, in all that she's doing and continues to do, she still has found time to work on writing her current autobiography, which is expected to be published soon. I'm sure she'll talk about this today. Now, without further ado, Elizabeth Johnson Rice currently calls, Silver Spring, Maryland, part of her home. She's a graduate of Virginia Union with a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Chemistry, and of Virginia State University, our sister or brother, historically Black college down the road just a bit, with a Master of Arts in Teaching, and is one of the first students to ever complete the requirements for the Master of Arts in Teaching at Virginia State University. Join me in welcoming our distinguished lecturer, Ambassador Elizabeth Liz Johnson Rice. Ambassador Rice, we're in your hands.
Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone that have attended or attending, and hopefully I'll say something that is inspiring to you or letting you know a little bit about myself. I know a lot of you are probably wondering, how did you get the name Ambassador? I'll come to that later, but just want to thank everyone who's put this together. I was elated to know that I was going to be on the presidential lecture series. And I said, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. So they think highly of me, and I certainly think highly of my alma mater. I haven't been really as active as I'd like to be, but I am going to do even more, and certainly some financially. I want to certainly want to help you. But I want to thank Dr. Strayhorn, Dr. Tanita Freeman, and Dr. Lucas for giving me this opportunity. So without further ado, I'll just go on and start. What I'd like to do is, and I hope that someone will let me know my time, I've kind of broken my lecture into several series. The first section, I'll talk about my experience with the Richmond 34 and how we got to be called that. Then after that, I'll be talking about, I'm going to do a timeline. I'm going to be talking about my brother, Ford T. Johnson Jr., who was also a member of the Richmond 34 and got arrested. And he had a case that came before the Supreme Court, and that's related, so I'll get back to you. And then I'm going to talk about my involvement working with Petersburg High School. I was a teacher in Petersburg at Peabody first, and they asked me to do a test case. We'll talk about that. Then we'll get to how I got the name Ambassador and bring it all around, and try to tie into all of that racism, which is one of the things that have been added to my platform. I've been talking about civil rights and my experiences for years, but now I have another subject to add to it, and I'm so excited because that's what everybody's talking about anyway. And I'm so glad that Virginia Union is giving me the opportunity to be the first to talk about that. Well, let's go back to 1960, February 22nd, 1960, George Washington's birthday. And I, of course, was attending Virginia Union University, and my brother was also. And we had started that morning. I've told the story many times, and I'm still excited to tell it. I was sitting around the breakfast table. When I start with that statement in many venues that I've spoken at, they look amazed that I was sitting around a breakfast table. And I say, with my parents, and they even look more amazed. In other words, you actually had a mother and a father at a breakfast table having breakfast, and they find that so ironic. But there are many of us that still have both parents, or parents that really care about us. And so at any rate, my mother was a professor at Virginia Union in the business department. And my father was a dentist here in Richmond, Virginia. And they had seen the TV cameras and what was going on. And they were very concerned that they didn't want me to get hurt, because they knew that the sit-in movement was coming to Richmond at some point. And it did come, and students were ready for it. Why? Because Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy and James Farmer, and I can go on and on. They came to Virginia Union because they were known for educating awesome ministers, preachers that were all around the United States. And many times you will hear a guy, where are you from? Where did you get your training? They'll say Virginia Union Theological Seminary. And so that's, as a matter of fact, I got hooked by one of those ministers that came to Virginia Union. And I got married to a Reverend Richard Rice from Sandusky, Ohio. Well, okay, to make a long story short, uh, we were ready for the movement when it came. And that day, February 22nd, was the day that came on the campus, and everybody, instead of being in class, which we should have been, they were standing on the grounds. Everybody was quietly talking. And then I looked down on the grounds, and there were the picket signs. Well, we'd already we'd already had training about nonviolence and what to do if we did the march, and how it would be a nonviolent, passive march, and we weren't supposed to do anything that would bring discredit to the school or our parents. So here we are. I put my books down, don't know where I put them, but I put them down, picked up a picket sign, and my brother did also. So at that point, the leader of the group was Charles Sherrod, who was the school of ministry, and Ralph and Frank Pinkston. They were the leaders of the movement. And we'd been in workshops about what to do and what not to do. So at any rate, one of them said, we're going forward. Pick up your signs, and today we are going to picket. They'd already gone to Woolworths and Grants and shut down the counter, but they weren't arrested. So they wanted to make a statement. And I'm, of course, not even thinking about the possibility of being arrested. I'm just so excited to be doing something for nonviolence. And then I realized I just told my parents I wasn't going to get involved, but there I was in the line. 200 students from Virginia Union got in line quietly. We all looked good. We were sophisticated. We wore our best, but we wore our Sunday best every day because those were the guidelines at that time. So we got in line and marched from Lombardy all the way down to Tallheimer's department store, one of the meccas of shopping in Virginia. We got down there and everybody started picketing around Tallheimer's department store. And we did that. People were calling us names and horns were blowing, and we just kept on walking and doing what we were taught to do. And pretty soon, one of the leaders said, we're going in. And I said, oh my goodness, what am I getting ready to do here? So I went on into the store. And of course, it was a store that had a bakery, and it had all types of great clothes and shoes and a restaurant on the top level. But there was a lunchroom counter on that first floor. So I got in, and there were more than 200 of us there. All of us couldn't get in the store. But I had the luck of the draw, I call it. And I got in and sat around the lunchroom counter. And there were 34 of us in that store. Some went to the upper level, and I was on the first floor where there was a big window there that you could see the outside, and people came to have lunch. So we sat down at the spaces that were available and we wanted to have lunch, but they looked at us like, are you crazy? Do you realize that Blacks are not, served here? Nobody said a word. And we looked at each other. Nobody was talking. Some students were smart enough to bring their books with them. But of course, I don't know where I put mine. So we're sitting there, and we were there for less than an hour. And then I'm looking out the window and I see the police wagons pull up, and I knew what that meant. And so I was hoping, well, maybe they're just pulling up and there are no dogs involved. But there very closely as they got out of the wagon, and there were those vicious looking German Shepherd dogs. And they were pulling them back with the chains. And so I thought I was going to be an example, like I had seen on TV. And I said, my goodness, things are going to happen now. Violence is about to happen. And they came into the store with the dogs, and they got close to the lunchroom counter area. And they said, you guys are under arrest. And if you don't leave now, we are going to take you to jail. They didn't call us any names. And they said it again. You are going to be under arrest for trespassing. If you don't leave now, come and join us, follow us. Everybody was quiet. Nobody said a word. We've been taught well. And so I expected them to just use the billy clubs and get us off the seats. But they came to us and they pulled us off of the seats. And I said, well, this is unusual, but good. And of course, the German Shepherd dogs, there was one that got near my leg, and I just prayed, don't let this dog bite me, please. And the dog, it was pulled back. Nobody got hit with the billy club. Nobody got bitten. And the police did not call anybody their name or out of their name. And we followed them into the wagons, not knowing what was going to happen. And I'm thinking, you know where I'm thinking, because my attention is split. It's between what's happening in the present and what happened maybe several hours ago at the breakfast table and what I had said. So we get into the wagon. They take us to the jail. I don't know where their jail is. I need to go back and look at it again. I think there's something there. They could have got a new jail now. At any rate, they took us into the jail. We got out of the wagons and we went into a side door. Remember the side door going in? And there I was in line to be fingerprinted and my picture taken. That was quite a reality there. And I said, okay, and all of us had that done. Then they threw us, they didn't throw us, but they opened the jail door to our cells and we went in. Well, I didn't know what I was thinking at that point. I was just saying, I'm not going to be here all night. What's going to happen? Will we get bailed out? And pretty soon the bailiff came and said, all of you are free to go. And I said, how are we free to go? There are 34 of us. And they said, your bail has been paid. My bail's been paid and everybody's bail. Who paid the bail? So they said, they didn't say who paid it, but they said, they opened up that door, the cell door, and we came out one by one. But the point is, when I got to the door, I noticed it wasn't silent anymore. I heard people laughing and clapping their hands, and I just said, what's going on? And then I looked as I was getting ready to walk out of the door. I saw all these people on one side of the street, and looking further down, there were people on both sides of the street, mainly white, mainly Black, but a few white people sprinkled throughout. So I stood there at the door and not moving. And then all of a sudden I got this gut feeling, oh my gosh, we've done what we said we were going to do. And we didn't do it just for ourselves. We did it for those people across the street and down the street because they couldn't do it. They were older. And had they demonstrated or protested, they would have lost their jobs and all these things could have happened. So I realized then that somehow, and I will use this word often, divine intelligence led us to do what they couldn't do. And so I was proud of the fact that I stood up, just as the others had stood up and fought for injustice that day. Well, the story doesn't end there. We get out, and all of a sudden, all these cars are out there. Well, how did these cars get out here? Still hadn't figured who gave that order. Make sure you're out there to pick them up. So we got into these cars not knowing who they were or where we were going. So we realized very soon after that, we were taken to the Eggleston Hotel, which was one of the few hotels in Richmond that Blacks could sleep overnight and get a decent meal, because you weren't going to go to the Holiday Inn or any of the other nice restaurants and stores around. And the Marriott, I don't think, was built then. So here we are. We get out in front of Eggleston Hotel, and people are out there, strangers, professors, students. And the main thing I was concerned about, well, I know the parents have heard about this by now. So I went into this big room within Eggleston Hotel, and I surveyed the audience. And there I saw my mother, who was smiling. I said, okay, that's one down. Got one to go. And then I saw my father in the midst of the crowd, and he would be the one that would have the stern look on his face if he didn't like something. But he didn't have a stern look on his face. He had a look of pride, because he knew that day, not just one of his children got arrested, but two of his children, and he was proud. He had that look of pride. And so I knew then that everything was okay. Well, many things happened after that. And there's so many that I will tell you, and I'll tell you, wait for my book to give you all the details. But I will tell you this much, because of that action, and so many things happened. And I'm going to be skipping over some stuff because I got other things to tell you. But after 1960, and I got the opportunity to get invited to be on the Today Show in New York, and I was chosen to be the female from the South who would represent the sit-in movement. And there was another young man from A&T, Lacey Streeter, who I just met, and we were on the Today Show with Dave Garroway and Florence Henderson. And we made news that day, and that was so exciting. And then the thing is, we had to be on a panel, and we were to debate with 5 or 6 segregationists from the South, and they were ready to attack us. And the question that was asked, and after that question, I don't remember much of anything else. They said, why do you students think you deserve to be first-class citizens? And I just was almost, what? And I said, why should all I can remember is, I said, why not? We deserve it as much as you do. Now, what I said after that, I don't remember, but it must have been okay. So at any rate, that day was a wonderful whirlwind day. Why? Because we had lunch with some unknown celebrities that I was really, I still think about them and realize I didn't know who they were, didn't know my history like I should have known it. But so many of us don't know our history, but we're learning it now. I had lunch with Roy Wilkins, the founder and one of those first leaders for the NAACP. I had lunch with him and one of his good friends. Who was the good friend? Thurgood Marshall. I said, after I reflect on this years back, I didn't know whose company I was in. And many times we won't know whose company we're in until many years later. So look at the people beside you and behind you, in front of you, because they may be very valuable to you in the future. Well, anyhow, that happened. We had an interview with the New York Times and all of that. Went back home. We were celebrities on campus. And after that, the next year, I graduated, 1961, and went on to do some, got married, went on to do some things. And after that, nobody heard about the Richmond 34 anymore. No one invited us back to the campus. It was like we didn't exist. And that was 1960. But I have to tell you, in 2004, I was teaching in Washington, D.C. And I came home from school one day, and it was like, here we go, divine intelligence hit me in the head, and I didn't know what happened. All I know is I was spiritually told to get on the phone, call Richmond, and let them know that I was starting a commemoration march. Came out of nowhere. We know where it came from. I got on the phone, called the police, told them I wanted to do a commemoration march. What do I have to do? What are my preparations for it? Said, you don't need to do anything. I'm going to put you in touch with the park police. Everybody was so kind. And so we got the park police. He said, well, you don't have to do anything if you stay on the sidewalk. And so, they said, it's a good thing because Richmond has changed and people do need to remember what happened. So I did that. Then I called the mayor's office. They did a proclamation for me, called Virginia Union, and I got in touch with a guy by the name of Dr. Hilton. Dr. Hilton said, is this Betty Johnson? That was what they called me then. I said, yes. So I've been looking for you because you have been involved in so much, and I want to meet with you. I said, well, what I said to him was, I didn't say, may I? I said, I'm having a commemoration march, and I'm going to have that very soon. And I just want to get the students at Virginia Union to join me in the march and that type of thing. And so he didn't know. He didn't realize that so much was going on at that time. I think it was the CIAA tournament and those types of things, and students were there. And so I ended up having to march, getting some family together and some friends together, and I marched anyway without that. But at any rate, that day, it was a very life-changing day. We went there and stood in front of Thalheimer's. Why 2004? I have to wonder, why did I do it then? Because I didn't know, but in 2004, Thalheimer's was demolished. They tore the store down. They were getting ready to demolish it. And for some reason, I was there with some civil rights activists in the city that we'd gotten in touch with, and they were there. And they all spoke, and it was a cold day, but they came out. And in the crowd was this white couple. And they came up to me after everything was over. And they said, you know, you may not have been remembered in those other years, but I assure you, we're going to make sure that your 50th anniversary will be one to be remembered. And then she told me what her name was. And she said, I'm Elizabeth Thalheimer Smart. I'm the granddaughter of the man that arrested you. And I was amazed. And I said, thank you. I'm so glad you came. She said, oh, by the way, I said, I have a certificate. I was giving out certificates that day. I was giving certificates to others, even though we hadn't gotten one ourselves. So I had a certificate that for some reason, we know the reason, because we're at Virginia Union University, and we learned that there is such a thing that guides all of us, that is bigger than all of us. And I had that spiritual nudge. Why don't you write a certificate to William Thalheimer's? Because he initiated something that has started something, a domino effect, and things are going to get better because of this. So I gave her a certificate. Her name is Elizabeth Palmer Smart. Gave her the certificate. I said, will you give this to your grandfather? And she was amazed that I even had thought about him. And she told me later that she did give it to her grandfather. And he was amazed that he had a certificate, and tears came to his eyes. And so that was that story. And many things went on. We had a great, great celebration, and we've been recognized since. And I just want to take this time to thank Dr. Lucas for letting me voice this to those students that might be listening, that this is what happened. You're doing great things, but just know at the right time and at the right place, your voices will be heard and things will change. Well, okay, let me go to the second story. And that's not all of that story. So many things are still happening right now. The second story is my brother, Ford T. Johnson Jr., who was in Richmond driving my father's car. My father had gotten the tags, but Ford had not put the tags on the car. So the police pulled him over and said, we're going to take you to court, to the judge, and because you don't have improper tags. So my brother had, keep in mind, he'd already been arrested in sit-ins. So he went into the court, sat where there was a vacant seat near the window, and he waited for his name to be called. Well, it wasn't but a few minutes when someone yelled, "Colored boy who's sitting in the white section, get out of that section and come over here and sit with the black folks." And my brother looked at, "Sir, are you talking to me?" And they said, "Yes, we're talking to you. You don't belong over there. That's the reserved section for the whites. You need to be over here with your people." And he said, "But sir, there are no seats over there." He said, "I don't care, then stand." So he came and stood in front of the judge's bench with his hands in front of him, refusing to sit down. And he said, "If you don't sit down," did you hear what I said? And you know, it was demeaning. "If you don't sit down, I'm going to throw you in the jail for contempt." My brother said, did not say a word. And the judge threw him in jail for contempt charges. Well, there he is in jail. And with the jail apparently was not that far from the courtroom at that time. And so he's in jail, and all of a sudden, you know, lawyers are coming and going. A lawyer sees him in jail, and he said, "Ford Jr., what are you doing in jail?" The lawyer knew him because it was my father's lawyer at that time. He said, "They threw me in here for contempt because I wouldn't sit where the black folks were made to sit." And he said, "Oh, let me call Ford. Let me call Doc." That's what they called my father. He said, "Doc, Ford Jr.'s in jail. We need to get him out." And so that lawyer was, believe it or not, the first governor, Governor Wilder of Richmond, Virginia. That was the lawyer. See how things intertwine. So anyhow, that case went all the way from Richmond, Virginia, all the way through the Supreme Court. Great lawyers worked on it, Ely and Oliver Hill, and so many great people. And that case was won while my brother was in the Peace Corps in Ghana. And if you want to check that out, students in Virginia Union and other places, Johnson versus the state of Virginia, 1963. Okay, so we're now out of 1963. And there's a theme going through all of this that I know you'll figure out later. There was the 1967. I was a teacher at Peabody High School around that time. 1966, maybe Peabody. At any rate, they asked me, I was called into the office, and they asked me, there's going to be Peabody High School, which is an all-white school, Petersburg High School, which is an all-white school, is going to be integrated next year. And we've chosen you as to be one of our test case. Are you up for it? So I thought it was just going to be another job. Of course I'm up for it. So I left Peabody, and the next year, 1967, I went to teach at Petersburg High School. Well, let me just tell you real quickly what happened. My husband and I were driving. I had a little red Volkswagen at that time, and first day of school, I am driving up to this big school with the big white columns and all the steps. And I get there, and the steps aren't empty. Every step is filled with irate white parents and students, and I don't know who else, who are they're looking to see who is this Black teacher who has the nerve to come and teach our children. And there I realized my husband said, well, you've got a welcoming committee. I said, they don't look too welcome to me. I got out of the car and I realized, boy, I sure wish I could find a side door, but nope. And that wasn't the day for a side door. So I got out, walked to the center of the crowd. Don't know, ask me how I did it, but I dug deep, put my head up high, and I said, well, Moses parted the Red Sea. Today I'm gonna part the White Sea. And I went on up the steps and met the principal at the top of the stairs. Well, those years that followed, not too many years, I met racism head on, head on. Now I had racism, of course, at the lunchroom counter and all of that. And my brother experienced racism in the court. But here I am. I've got students that don't want me there. I've got teachers that don't want me there. And it was really something. Well, the principal met me at the top of the stairs and said, I'm going to take you to your class. Welcome to Petersburg High. And if I can help you in any way, let me know. Anyhow, he took me to my class and I opened the door and I saw a group of angry, hostile, hateful faces looking at me. And so I said, well, you've got to do what you've always done. Don't make this any different. So as I usually do, I turned around and was getting ready to write my name on the board when someone had beat me to putting something on the board. And what was it? N-word, you need to go home. And then the next word, KKK with a noose is gonna lynch you. And I looked at that and I said, I have never had witnessed this type of thing before. And so I dug deep. I almost felt like crying and running out of there. I said, oh no, no way. And so I just dug in, turned around. First of all, I erased what was on the board and put my name. You know how teachers do. Put my name on the board, turned around and said, I am here. My name is Elizabeth Johnson Rice. I am your teacher. I came here to teach you, not to win a popularity contest. And with that, open your books and let's get started. And that's how I started. That's how I started. I had many, many racist days in front of me. I'd go into the lounge and they'd walk out. Now, I had no friends at that school, none. And then, of course, I happened to be there at the time. Keep in mind, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And the word came out across the PA, everybody who has a TV, cut it off. We don't want it on today. And I said, he can't be talking to me. So I cut my TV on. And not only did I do that, I got the tape recorder, you know, the big old, some big rolls of tape. I got the tape recorder. and I had it ready to go. And after that, we had seen all the information in the news about Martin Luther King, I asked them questions. I had questions. Now, I know I should have asked the parents' permission, but I didn't have time to do that because this was history. And I asked them questions about how did they feel about Martin Luther King. And they said, some said, I hate him. And then others said, well, he was trying to bring the races together, and different comments. This was history in the making. But the word got out that Ms. Rice was talking to her class, and I got called down to the principal's office. And the principal said, Ms. Rice, you should have gotten your students' permission. I said, yeah, but this is a very special day, sir. And I had to cut my TV on. He said, but what about the tape? You're going to have to turn that tape in because, So I said, well, I'll do what I can. By the time I'd gotten back to the classroom, my tape was gone. So somebody out there has my tape, and they may try to put my words into a book one day of students and how they felt during that time. So that was that story. So of course, before I left, it was a beautiful time and everybody wanted to be in my class and teachers spoke to me and, that's how it goes. So we're now at the next thing I want to talk to you about. And that was, after all this had gone on, I'm going to take you, skip some years and get to 2020. 2020. Well, really not that. I forgot a very important part. It was the 59th anniversary. And Dr. Lucas had been very involved. We've been having meetings and getting ready. But what happened before that time, Dr. A.J. Franklin, one of the members of the Richmond 34 who retired from Boston College, called me and told me he would stop by Homeland Security trying to get out of the country to speak. And they told him, Dr. Franklin, you better take care of this before you go, because with the new security, you may not be able to get back in. He said, what? What do I have to take care of? I've done nothing wrong. And so he said, well, let me ask you this. Did you get arrested in 1960? He said, yes. He said, well, according to this, you're still on the books. He said, how can I be on the books? That case was dismissed. And so they said, well, it may have been dismissed, sir, but it wasn't expunged. You're still on the books. And if you're on there, and AJ called me, said, I'm on the books. My record is still active. Your record's still active. Everybody's record's still active. But we've gotten all these jobs all these years. No one stopped us. But our record is still on the book. So he said, you got to call the NAACP and get to, we got to work on this thing. So what we did, we got through, judges, Judge Jameson and other people. And with Dr. Lucas, he said, look, we got to make this next anniversary a big one. And we knew that we were going to try to get our records expunged. And so that was what happened with that anniversary. And so some of us still didn't get the records expunged, but we had to go back to the police department and be fingerprinted again. But the assembly and the courts and everybody, we were their guests that day as the judge told us that our records were expunged and gave us copies and stuff. So that's what happened then. Okay. So then we leave there and go, here it is 2020. And so many things happen. Won't even get into the Governor Northam thing in the school, but that was a pretty big year. But I appreciate Dr. Lucas and his support. Well, here we are, 2020 is going by and not too much support, and things are kind of slow. COVID comes, and things change there. You're still experiencing it. So at any rate, I got this call from a guy by the name of Parney Parnell. And he said, look, we've been thinking a lot about you and seeing your name a lot of places and hearing it. And we Googled you. And so what I think is that we'd like to come in and have you come to the Diamond. We want to talk to you. I said, what could that be? So Parney and Nutsy. Nutsy is their squirrel mascot. They came to pick me up, asked me, they said, well, they're going to pick me up and bring me to the Diamond. And I didn't know what was happening there. So here we are. They picked me up and they told me, you know, tell me your story. I've been hearing, tell me the story while we're on our way. So I gave them a short, story on the way. And we get there. And when I was told the story, Party got kind of quiet. And he had little tears, little kind of teary-eyed. And I was feeling it too. And he said, that's an awesome story. And when we got there, he opened the gates to the Diamond. And they knew I had my cane and my walker from all my health challenges. And he said, we don't have to walk. We're going to drive you around the Diamond. We're going to treat you like a queen. I said, okay. I had been called Queen Elizabeth at one time or another. So they drove me around the Diamond. And before we went into the Diamond, they look up there. You see the rim of the Diamond? Well, we want to put something up there. And I said, okay. They said, we'll tell you about it later. So we go through the Diamond, and then as we pass through the steps that lead up to the concourse, he said, we're going to put something on those steps. I said, okay. And so we came on around the Diamond and I got the whole picture. And he went underground where they parked and went into their conference room. And so here I am in the conference room sitting with Parney Parnell, the manager of the team, the Flying Squirrels baseball team, and other administrative staff, and some, I don't know whether any players there at the time, because of course COVID had hit. And so we had a mask on, and he went on to say, look, Elizabeth, tell your story to these people. So I had to tell my story again. Excuse me. And so they got kind of quiet. And then they said, we knew we've made the right decision. We wanted to do something that would have an impact on Richmond, Virginia, about something that actually happened here in Richmond that you don't hear about too much. And he said, we have decided that we are going to celebrate your legacy. I said, what do you mean? He said, we showed you the top of the rim. We are going to put legacy of the Richmond 34 on that. And everybody that comes into Richmond is going to look up there and say, well, who are the Richmond 34? What happened? And then that will start the discussion. He said, not only that, remember we showed you those steps? He said, every member of the Richmond 34 will have their name on those steps. And I was getting teary-eyed by that time. He said, and also the number 34, just like Jackie Robinson, number 42 was retired. We're going to retire the number 34 so that no one on the team ever wears that jersey. And we're going to have a celebration about what you all did, because Richmond has already celebrated you. Virginia Union has celebrated you, and you need to be celebrated. But we're going to need your help because we have a mission. We have a mission that we want to have you a part of. We need you to be a part of this mission. And I'm just going to read you the mission that we have right now. And it says, this is a mission between the Richmond 34 and the Richmond Flying Squirrels. Our mission is to promote justice, peace, racial equality, and diversity by creating innovative and exciting educational opportunities that utilize relevant information from the past, knowing our past, to help students and others understand the present with the purpose of empowering them to advocate for a better future for all people. And so that's a mission. And they said at our big meeting on February 24th that their mission was to eradicate racism. Here we are. What a mission. And no one can do this alone. And so they said, Ms. Rice, we'd like for you to work with me, work with us in getting this mission to become a reality. We've got many programs that are planned. And Virginia Union already is a part of that program, with a new program coming out at the college to teach sports management careers to those students that are interested in other things. We've already done a pilot program at Fairfield Community School, Fairfield Court, and we did, Nutsy and I did the first exchange of my story that is in a book. And we read that. Nutsy turned the pages as I gave as much enthusiasm as I could. And I understand it went over well. The kids really loved it. And they loved Nutsy turning the pages. And so I think that's already been edited, and that'll be available soon. But that's what has happened since then. Well, I spoke at Virginia State University to Dr. Kimball's students and class. And you know, Virginia Union wasn't gonna let him get away with that. So here I am. They have made me a presidential lecturer in this series. I'm in the company of some great people. So I'm very humbled to be able to share that platform with others. And hopefully things will be done that I can share more things with you. But I'm loyal to both schools. Virginia Union, I got my bachelor's from, and I got Virginia State, where I got my master's from. But we're together in this fight to beat racism. And that February 24th program at the Diamond was covered, and it's on YouTube for everybody to see. And we don't know how far this is going to go. But during that time, we both kind of, at the Diamond, I think we both said, well, look, you're going to be helping us, so we need to come up with a name or something. So we both came up with the name Ambassador. So that's how I got to be called Ambassador of the Richmond 34 and the Flying Squirrels, to promote the elimination of racism. And so it's a big task, but I certainly look forward to doing something to help other people. So I'm going to, I think I have covered, one other thing I forgot. Nothing can be done to eradicate racism if we don't put God first in the picture. Everything is possible with God's assistance, and nothing can happen. And I came across, it was from a course in miracles. It's a book written by Dr. Helen Schumann. And I just want to share these two things before I open it up to questions or anything Dr. Strayhorn would like to say. Think about racism as I read this. Just think about it. Think about a world in infancy, newly born, with racism being eradicated. And we will watch it grow in health and strength, to shed its blessings upon all who come to learn to cast aside the world they thought was made in hate and to see love. Now are they all made free along with us. Now are they all our brothers in God's love. We will remember them throughout the day because we cannot leave a part of us outside our love if we would know ourselves. As you go along each day, think about the people who make the journey with you and who came to learn what you must learn. And as he comes in mind or she comes in mind, give them this message for yourself. And I leave you with these words. I bless you, brother, with the love of God, which I would share with you. For I would learn the joyous lesson that there is no love but God's and yours and mine and everyone's. With that, I want to close my messages and give you a chance to answer any questions.
First of all, bravo to you, Ambassador Rice. Thank you so much for sharing that powerful story, that personal message. I don't know if you're able to see the chat, but you got folks wiping their tears as they listen to this powerful story about resilience, about strength, tenacity, grit, commitment to creating change in the world. I mean, you are by definition the living, breathing legend that has already paved the way for racial justice in this country, for racial justice in Richmond. So I want to, one, just commend you on a really bravo lecture. Also to join with others in thanking you for the sacrifice. And to the other 33 who are not here, but represented by you, our hats off, great respect and homage paid to Richmond's 34. If it had not been for Richmond's 34, in many ways, there would be no Black Lives Matter in the city of Richmond. And so these two movements are so connected, they're so powerful. And I know I speak for everyone in the listening audience and the viewing audience and who will watch the recording to say thank you for the sacrifice. And we at Virginia Union University are honored to have you as a part of our Presidential Distinguished Lecture Series, not only as an alum of this great institution, but also to have you speak with us today in the month of March, which is Women's History Month. It is so meaningful to have you speak to our students, to our faculty, to our alumni, to those across the nation who are watching. We have some time for one or two questions. I know that folks are wiping their eyes and fixing their makeup and everything else, but just one question that we do have for you, Ambassador Rice, and this one we probably anticipated, is any insights for us about the autobiography that you're writing and when it will be done and when it might be available?
Well, I have been writing on this autobiography for 10 years. And everybody kept saying, when is it coming out? Well, I've been, the rubber meets the road because I've got some very insistent people that say, you got to do it this year. This is your year. So I'm going to definitely, I have help right now. As a matter of fact, my first deadline is this Friday to show this person what I'm doing. What do you have for me? Because I've got some help in getting it done. But it'll talk about all the way from my childhood to things that I've had so many wonderful things come at me, unreal. Been involved in a lot of things. And why was I there at this point and at that time? And I always knew that something great was going to happen to me one day. And everything's been great, but I don't know where this is going to go. We just don't know. God knows, but I certainly don't know. But I'm willing to listen and to do the part I have to do.
Well, as you're writing to meet your deadline on Friday, let me let you know that Kathy and Betty and several others in the chat are saying, keep going, Ambassador Rice, hats off to you. They are happy to hear the great news about your progress with the book. You are such an inspiration to so many. So then for our final question, as we wrap up today, there is a question we received about just your thoughts about, this is from a graduate of VUU, class of 1980, who is saying that they didn't hear much about the Richmond 34 when they were on campus. And so what can we do, apart from having you as a distinguished lecturer? What is it that the class of 70, the class of 80, and we're about to celebrate the class of 2021, shout out to all of our seniors who are listening, what can be done to continue to tell this story, and more importantly, or just as importantly, to continue the fight for racial justice in the city of Richmond? What can be done to honor this story? If you weren't a part of the Richmond 34, but you want to salute them and carry that story forward? And then secondly, what do we need to be doing now as college students to fight for racial justice? Any insights there?
I definitely want to meet with the Virginia Union students and staff that want to become involved. And I want your support in this, in eradicating this racism. And I think it starts with realizing that it does exist, what it is, and that all of us have experienced it in one way or another. You may not think you have experienced it. You may not even realize that you yourself may have been the racist, and that you've done things that weren't to becoming of yourselves. So I'd like to have some dialogue. I'd like to set up a forum. And I think Natalie Andre, one of my friends there, I'd ask her to get together with Dr. Lucas and maybe get a forum, but a forum was promised me by the governor when we had our big anniversary in '59, and I have yet to have that come to fruition. So I'm gonna make sure the governor sees this, and that forum will be held, because what a time it is now to discuss racism. The time is now, not later, but now, because everyone is going to experience it if they haven't.
Such a great point. And certainly we see ourselves connected now, and we are partners with Ambassador Rice. And thank you so much for telling us about the history and the evolution of that term and name for you. Know that, we will be working with you, with the Flying Squirrels, as we have been, in so many ways, to enrich the experiences of all of our students at Virginia Union. We are exceptionally proud of the work that we have underway in partnership with the Flying Squirrels that will bring exciting internships to our students in business and related fields, as well as what we're doing to build out wraparound support services for our Hispanic students, especially through our Universidad. So as we wrap up today, we thank you again, Ambassador Rice, for being here and being our presidential distinguished lecturer during Women's History Month. This concludes today's lecture. And I do want to say, for everyone who has joined us and watching, please stay tuned for our next lecture, where we will have another dynamic speaker. As Ambassador Rice today has shared, she is part of a long list of impressive speakers. We've already had Michael Eric Dyson, we've had Roland Martin, we've had just folks from industry, from sports, from folks in ministry. So we're excited to bring you each and every installment or installation of these, a speaker from an industry or an area of life who is a leader, a pioneer, who embodies the values of our beloved institution, Virginia Union University. They are innovative. They are diverse and committed to equity. They are all about spiritual formation. And you heard it in the powerful story of Ambassador Rice. that this spirit of resiliency and commitment and tenacity not only was alive and well in her in 1960, February 22nd, it was 1960, but it's still with her here, March 17th, 2021. And listen, it is in each and every one of you who's listening, who will watch the recording. For those of our faculty who have students watching, thank you for sharing Ambassador Rice's story with our students and our alumni. Yes, Ambassador Rice?
I just want to share with the group that a Legacy Weekend is being planned by the Squirrels, a big event, but I think they're planning for it mid-July when everything is hopefully changed, that we can be together. So look for that date. You'll be hearing from me, and I'll be in touch with you, Dr. Strayhorn, and Ms. Freeman, and Dr. Lucas. So there's so much that's happening, but we've got to stay together and stay in communication with each other.
Absolutely. Well, Legacy Weekend is a fitting name because of the legacy that you and Richmond 34 have set. Listen, thank you all for joining us today. We are excited about the great things going on at Virginia Union University, not just our distinguished lecture series that's powered through VUU Global, but we're excited about all of our new academic programs. We've got new graduate programs, new undergraduate programs. We're looking forward to launching several things this summer. So stay tuned. Check us out, www.vuu.edu. We are VA Virginia, VA Union 1865 on all things social media. You want to connect with us, wear your mask, wash your hand, listen, get vaccinated so that as things open up, we can connect again. We look forward to seeing you at our next presidential lecture series. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.